All right, so we're back for the crossover between Movie Rewind and Art Convos, two of the series that we do on Lightning Culture. And so this is going to be a very different art convo where we're discussing the art of the movie Into the Spider-Verse. Normally we do art books about specific artists, but we're so in love with this movie and so in love with the art. And, you know, I often mention the cinematography as a photographer, and Travis is an actual trained comic book artist, so he, even though I'm very educated in art, I'm not, like, I can have a conversation with you, but I'm not an artist, you know?
And to be honest, just coming from an art background, you know, and I can say I went to art school. I mean, that's what I majored in and everything, but even when I was doing that, I never can, like, if I would talk about art, I'd always feel a little pretentious sometimes. Mm-hmm. But what's funny is, like, so many people there would, like, take themselves way too serious talking about art, and it kind of alienated me from wanting to talk about art, and I just more so, like, just recently kind of grew out of that fear of sounding pretentious when I talk about it.
I hear you. So,
to be honest, there's a lot of art school kids who are very full of themselves.
Well, let's not attack art school, Travis. Let's be kind of like the little bastards. So we're gonna start with the cover of the book, and this book is massive. It is a beautiful $50 200-page. It has splash pages, trifold pages. It is gorgeous, and I only knew about it because you told me about it. I went out and bought it, like the last copy that they had at Books A Million.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, when we were having this conversation, we were talking about how much we love the art of this movie, and I had mentioned that I was going to try and get that art book. And you were so gung-ho about it, but immediately after the phone call, I think maybe a few hours later, you had called me back and told me that you got it that same day.
Yeah, when you told me about it, I was pretty near to a bookstore. I was working and for my garbage job at the time, and so and I'm happy to say this because they were very awful people.
Yes.
I had done most of my work, so I stopped at a bookstore real quick, and they just happened to have it, and it was the last copy available. So even though there was another place that had it on sale, but they didn't have a copy, so I was just like, all right. So I think within an hour of you telling me about it, I owned the book. But we're going to start with the cover, this beautiful painted cover, but it's not just painted, or I don't think. It's hard to tell. So one of the things about this movie is it blends different types of art styles in a way that's appropriate because everything's slightly out of sync, which is the theme of this movie, but also still blends together, even being from different worlds, metaphorically and literally.
Yeah. Real quick, I'm just curious because I can't tell. Is that the actual image printed onto the hardcover, or is that a dust cover on it?
This one is a dust cover. If you take off the dust cover, it is the same image on the front, but without the trade dress.
Oh, I love that. So, to go back to the other book that we talked about here on Art Convos about Darwin Cook, that had that amazing cover on the dust jacket, right? And then when you took it off, it was a different, a completely different image. I love that they had the same image without the trade dress on the actual hardcover.
Yeah, and to mention, I don't know if we mentioned it on this series or on your own channel, Travis Hymel, Hymel, where you live draw. But trade dress is a term of art for comic books. It means all the text and everything else that is put later on top of the images. So the cover of a comic book is typically like when you draw a comic book cover, you don't draw the logo. The logo is put in later with Photoshop.
Yeah, you're supposed to. Well, yeah, depending on who you work with or whatnot. A lot of times the publisher will provide you trade dress, like a template, to kind of know where to leave room for the logo and some of the trade dress. However, some people don't use that; they just kind of eyeball it, which I don't think that's the best method. But we're getting a little off topic on that with me.
No,
but yeah, that's what
this series is about. Like like I said, like teaching people about art.
Yeah, well, I'll say this, and this kind of goes for this cover. I don't know if it was cropped or if this was made or whatever, or however it was cropped. They left enough room for that trade dress in that corner so it flows nicely, and it makes sense where they placed it. Because your eye is still reading this almost like you would pages in a comic book. You're going to start from the left. So top left around his head, and you're kind of going to go down to his eyes, to his shoulder, and then you go all the way down to the right to the trade dress.
We're going to move on to the next page, which is 6 panels. Now, I do want to mention there's no way to go through everything we're going to see. It would just take too much time.
Yeah.
But I do want to point out on the right side, the middle panel, something I forgot to mention in the movie rewind when we did it like 2 minutes ago. I was talking about the cinematography in this film, which is unbelievable. But one of the things I love is whenever possible, they often had the camera from the perspective of if you were Spider-Man or one of the Spider-Men. So instead of like flat angles and stuff like that. So the reason I'm pointing this one out is this is the camera pointing up in a way that isn't human. This is an angle, if you were Spider-Man, you would be looking up at Miles Morales and Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And this is, I don't know if these are paintings. I think they are, but it actually looks digital. So they might be digital
they're
paintings.
like digital paintings is what I would say here. Some of them are composites. So like top left, if you look, see the train, that's a composite in there. The same with maybe that art, I would say as well. It's more so to kind of speed things up, but definitely those figures are painted in.
Just funny enough, so I'm looking at this movie's so detailed, so unbelievably detailed. In the 3 of the panels, there's a billboard that says "perfect," and okay, all right, I misread that. At the bottom left one, it looked like it said "purr," like cat, perfect, and I was wondering if that was meant to be the black cat. Because that is the type of film this is that's constantly got little references that you have to stop to notice.
They could, because they literally changed the text from the top left to the bottom, because that's a U in there now.
Okay, so I'm not misreading that?
No, the bottom left, it clearly says it's a clear U in there.
Okay.
The letter U.
Well,
and then if you look at the top left and top right, you see an E in there instead. So someone had changed that down the line. So it might be. I mean, there's all kinds of Easter eggs in here, because there's even, Jackie Robinson's number is 42, and that's the middle left panel.
Right. All right. So this next page, we're not really going to be able to talk, because there's the photo that I was able to take of it wasn't very good, but these seem to be these are all concept art. So there's like sort of 3 phases of stuff like this. There's the concept art, then there's storyboarding, and then the last thing ends up being the actual production. And the concept art, the whole point of it in a film is sort of proof of concept, to sort of streamline ideas that are going to be formalized during the process, but to give filmmakers an idea of what they're going for. And so this one you see various points in the film. Early on, the top ones are Miles walking through the neighborhood. You see Miles's room, which you get a beautiful panel of later in the book. Then the second from the right is right after Miles leaps over a car for the first time.
Yeah.
You get the Chris Pine Spider-Man talking to... okay, that must have been before... Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, some of the concept art obviously doesn't translate to what ends up being the film.
Yeah, a lot of times they'll probably have an early script. These artists will have early scripts, and they're probably just drawing different variations, because a lot of these are kind of just quick digital paintings. Well, I shouldn't say quick, but like digital paintings.
You know what? No, that's not Rest in Pete. That's when they're in Alchemax and Miles goes in after him.
Yeah.
That's what that... Okay, sorry.
No, it's all right.
But the two most interesting panels are the bottom ones, where you're seeing the Collider and when at the end of the movie when the Collider's like going berserk. What's interesting here is like the original pitch was a lot darker, and if you look through these panels, they do look very dark. And again, and I would guess at some point they decided, no, this movie needs to be bright and colorful.
Yeah.
Going to the next page, you get 3 solid panels. I'm not sure what the first one's supposed to be. I don't know if that's supposed to be from the end credits.
It could be just like a mood thing, to kind of capture the mood of the movie.
Mm-hmm. But the second and third are very specific from the film. The second one is when Miles first dons his costume, his own costume. When they have what's the name of the song? Can't think of it. But What's Up Danger? And What's Up Danger?
What's Up Danger? I was about to say Hello Danger.
It might actually be Hello. I don't know. Anyway.
No, wait. What's Up Danger?
Hello Danger is from that Ali Wong movie. I just realized that. And then the bottom panel is when Rest in Pete dies. And again, like you had mentioned for the first panel, like this is all setting moods, and a lot of that, if you don't know, comes down to color schemes. Excuse me. The middle panel has like these reds and blaring lights, and then the bottom panel is blue, blue and then shadows to represent darkness.
Yeah.
Did you have anything to say about this one?
No, not really. Nothing in particular. It's just, again, they're just trying to capture, I think, just the scenes, just kind of, maybe this might be a proof of concept phase, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think this is all concept art. But going to the next page, which might as well be storyboarding for the actual, which normally, you'll see storyboards later as we go through this. Typically, storyboards aren't painted and colored. Like, these are...
if this is storyboard, not to sound negative here, but I wish there was less detail, because it seems like they spent too much detail on here that it almost looks a little weird for me, with the exception of a few panels. Also, a random, I don't know if it's an error or not, but Miles is supposed to be in his fake Spider-Man costume, and then in the bottom left, he's in his ultimate costume.
That is true. I mean, mistakes happen.
Yeah, well, they probably just had that what I would call a cutout. So, like, a Miles colored, colored in already, and already situated where they could just kind of pop him into that panel. And it's like, all right, I don't have to redraw that, which makes sense. But also it's confusing because they spent a lot of time on these backgrounds, or someone else provided these backgrounds. It's hard to tell.
What's interesting to me about these panels in particular, and a lot of the colors and the design of the forest stayed the same in the movie, but This comes off to me as being very Genndy Tartakovsky, Samurai Jack looking. And I'm wondering if that was initially what they were going to go with, as more of a Samurai Jack style.
Well, I mean, having looked ahead a little bit, you can see that, and also this kind of, depending on where this was made and who the animators are, if certain animation schools, that's the kind of style that they're kind of teaching kids to kind of do something more like a painterly style and no outside contour line. And when I'm talking about a contour line, the big thing like with Samurai Jack is they were more shapes that weren't defined by lines. So they don't have like an exterior, like a black line or something defining the silhouette of the character.
Moving on to the next page, you were a little surprised by this one. So this is clearly an early design of Miles Morales. And I would guess whoever drew it was trying to balance between, because Miles is half black and half Puerto Rican, excuse me. So I'm guessing like the hair and all that is trying to balance all that. And I'm really glad they didn't go with this design. No offense if somebody out there looks like this, but I feel like this is definitely the wrong design for Miles.
I don't really have a problem with the hair. The face on the right. So not to make this about me, but one of the things when I was kind of starting out, when I was showing you some art, I remember in particular, you're like, your faces are okay, they're just way too detailed. And it adds either too much age sometimes to someone's face, or it doesn't make them look like they're supposed to. And there's some line work on this face that imply almost like an age, and also some weird like raisins, it looks like. On his face, like on the chin, there's like a just random
it's
dot. I don't know what that's supposed to be.
It's probably just the brush that he's using. It's supposed to just separate the lips and just doesn't quite.
Yeah, it just doesn't look. And then the lines around the mouth and the eyes imply something completely different than this being a young kid.
Well, I mean, if you look at the dimple in his chin, like, clearly that didn't work quite as well either.
Yeah. No, the other two are pretty great in my opinion. I love those. However, I will say the second figure, so like the middle figure, it's almost like I've seen that face from one of the Bendis comics before. I don't know if that's a composite or something that they just dropped in.
It looks familiar. It could also be an actor that you just not thinking.
Yeah, which is not a bad thing. That's not a complaint, because a lot of people do that sometimes, especially in the concept phase. They either drop someone's real face in there, or something that's already drawn. But I do like the little designs that are in here. I think they're pretty cool.
Moving on to the next page, you get more character designs that get a lot closer to the Miles that we actually have, and
it's getting a feel for the like what an animator would do to kind of get the feel for how he's going to move, and probably personality wise, what Miles is.
I don't know what that's supposed to be in the center, but it looks kind of like a variation on genitals.
What are you talking about in the middle?
The bottom, middle, like those weird markings.
Oh, that is a shoe coming off.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah, okay. I don't know how that looked with you. Does yours look like that? Adam, do you need to see a doctor?
So moving on to the next page, you get a beautiful painting of...
I love this.
And this is obviously directly influenced what ends up in the film when Miles, after he's seen Peter, Rest in Pete, die.
Hey, real quick, is that a low-key Deadpool reference on the right-hand side of the flag behind the mom?
It does look like it. It's kind of hard to say, though.
Because that's typically how his symbol is a circle that has divided with the eyes on the left and right.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. It does look like it. I do want to mention, this is something I've always I've thought was interesting in the film. I'm guessing NYPD must be copyrighted, Because I noticed they changed it to PDNY throughout the film, and I'm guessing they just didn't want to pay for rights, which seems odd to me. But
well, it is an alternate Earth, so there you go.
I guess so. So the next panel I love, and this isn't something. I mean, maybe it's somewhere in the film, like in a small shot, but this.
I think you're right, but it's such a shame because it's such a good little painting. That's just going to be some throwaway background element. But that happens with a lot of stuff in movies and comics sometimes that you spend a lot of time with.
Yeah, so you see, this is a young Jefferson Aaron Davis, and Aaron, who later becomes the Prowler, is clearly wearing a Run DMC sweater, and which I love. But this is back when they were still acting like brothers, back when Jefferson was committing crimes before he became a police officer. And this is one of my favorite paintings in the book, like, because it's, maybe this is in the film, maybe it's not, but it shows the detail that filmmakers go into sometimes when they really care about something, where they're thinking about, like, okay, who were these two characters before they became the men, and one became a police officer and one became a super criminal. You know, that's a lot of detail to go into.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's I've said it, it's almost like a drinking game, probably with me, but storytelling, right? Like that's a big thing that you get from this piece.
On the next page, you get, and so I took a bunch of these, the character designs, and so this is obviously after they had formalized Aaron Davis's look, and like you had said, like get an idea for like the way he moves and the way he expresses himself.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you got to especially the expressions and the type of person he is, and you kind of get a mix of, they were trying to get how he can be tough and kind of charming looking in a few of those, right? Like in a few of those panels.
Which goes to his character. It's a recurring moment in the film is when he talks to Miles about like how to get a girl, and he's teaching him the shoulder touch. Like he's, you know, before you ever see him as being this evil criminal, you get the sense that Aaron really is a good dude who just fell astray, but he is a loving uncle. The next page is actual storyboarding. And this one, so this is page 1 of a 3-page, what do they call them, triptychs?
Yes. Where
the third page folds out. So if you go along panels 1, 2, and 3, the panels underneath it are not 4, 5, and 6. That's the 1, 2, 3 keeps going across, and then comes back with each layer through all 3 pages. But this is what typically to some degree or another what a storyboard would look like. It's just laying out scenes and thoughts before you start working in earnest.
Well, you gotta get a feel for it, right? And it's kind of cool to see this. I'm a process person. And I love seeing this type of work. It's kind of interesting because you do kind of know that scene where he's just kind of sticking to everything, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we got the next one's a beautiful Mary Jane painting.
Yes. I actually took 2 pictures of this because one of them I did vertically because I'm going to use it as my screensaver on my phone. But
okay.
Again, the level of detail, like this version of Mary Jane is very Irish with a lot of freckles, and just unbelievably just captures Mary Jane in a way that, played by Zoe Kravitz in the film. But I love that image. Then you go to classic Peter Parker, whether this is Rest in Pete.
Classic costume, yes. Yeah.
Whether it's Rest in Pete or Peter Benjamin Parker. Spider-Man's had a lot of costumes over the years. Like, and far more than you actually expect, considering this is more or less the classic design that everyone. I mean, it doesn't have the arm webs, but pretty much the design everyone expects.
No, I'm jumping ahead, but there's some costumes that they showed, like they kind of drew it in the silhouette, like he might have the webbing underneath the arms.
Oh, okay. Not a lot to say about that. But then we get to Olivia, Dr. Octopus.
One of my favorite characters in the movie.
You would when we originally recorded the movie Rewind, you got a chance to talk about the silhouette of her hair design.
Yeah, that's in. I think you can probably see more in animation than comic books. But if you pay attention to certain things in cartoons that have particular silhouettes that kind of help you recognize certain characters. And with her, with Liv, she has this kind of what you think is more like a beehive kind of shaped haircut, even though it's like I guess like dreads or something that are supposed to be. I'm not sure, which is another kind of little nod. I guess maybe the dreads look like tentacles or something like that. But she has that very large hairpiece, and then like when the arms come out, so it's a very iconic silhouette that creates.
Yeah, this is a beautiful design, and this is a pre-established character from the Marvel Universe, but I'm pretty sure this design is very specific to the movie, and it was a nice reveal in the film. I really enjoyed her character. Next one is costume design for Spider-Gwen.
Which is pretty much exactly what you've seen in the comic books.
The only exception, and this is nitpicking, is the texture that they're adding here. I don't know if that's noticeable in the film. I didn't see it, but
it is. More so in the black, like I guess what you would say, like a lycra area, whatever that material could be.
Is that what the kids are calling it these days?
Whatever.
So speaking of awful initial designs, and this in the next page, the face for this girl actually also looks familiar, but they gave her like a weird anime chick kind of thing. Like she's wearing oversized, and look, and it's interesting from the perspective of design. Like there are specific choices about the outfit that they're putting on this version that say a lot about her. Like I said, like she's wearing a coat that's way too big for her. She's got like some sort of chibi sweatshirt over her gear. But this is not a good design for this character. It doesn't fit at all. I'm very glad they didn't use it.
By the way, it just looks like maybe because some of the concept designers might maybe be like I don't know, influenced by like some of the color range, because you kind of got these neon colors and maybe associating with like anime or Japan or something like that. I don't know what they were getting at here. It all depends on the artist too, right?
Yeah. Well, what I found interesting is if you compare this to the previous one that we looked at with Miles, there is a tendency for this artist to like give them like super rosy noses and cheeks. Miles had the same thing, and that was part of what I didn't like about that design as well. Next one is like proper once they got into it, character designs for Gwen Stacy.
Real quick, just wanted to point out that a lot of the good facial expressions that we like are done by this person named Shi-Yoon Kim. And I am pretty sure that in my Big Hero 6 that Disney hired the same person to do concept art for this movie. And just like they're doing here, they're really nailing these expressions and nailing this character.
Well, if Shi-Yoon Kim is on Instagram, I'd love to follow him or her. I'm not really sure.
I honestly don't know, but I recognize the name and I recognize the quality of the art. It's very good and very, like, those facial expressions are spot on.
The panel right above that I don't know if this was the one that they used in the film, but that's basically one of the stills from the origin story that they gave to Gwen Stacy in the book. Next one is Aunt May, character design by which we'll get into, played by Lily Tomlin, but we'll get into that in a second, in the next couple pages.
Oh, yeah, because I think you're going to say the same thing I want to say in this, because I looked ahead, of course.
But I do want to point out, like, so maybe this is done more for animated films, but they specifically gave her the look that they wanted. Like, she's clearly older, but not too old. She's wearing jeans, you know, she's Aunt May, but she's got a little bit of Marissa Tomei in her, possibly.
Yeah.
In the design. But yeah, in the next page, before they finalized the design, clearly they thought, like, they must have known that, well, it could be chicken and the egg. Either they knew that Lily Tomlin was going to be Aunt May, or they thought, like, hey, let's just design Aunt May to look like Lily Tomlin, hoping that we'll get her.
I wish they would have went with this. Not that I have a complaint either way, because if I didn't see these sketches, I wouldn't, I wouldn't really mind, right? It doesn't matter. But seeing these Lily Tomlin sketches, and it's done by Shi-Yun Kim, they're incredible. I think they really capture Lily Tomlin's facial features very well, especially her smile. I think that would have been a kind of a great thing, but maybe Lily didn't want to have her likeness in there. It could be numerous things. Well, they could have wanted her to look a little bit more youthful as she does in the previous image.
Yeah, I mean, they would have had to pay her for her likeness. Now, granted, I'm older, so it wouldn't matter to most people, but I'm glad they didn't go with Lily Tomlin's likeness, because I recognized her voice, but I didn't find it distracting. If it looked like her, I would have been very distracted.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The next one is character facial expressions for Wilson Fisk. What I find interesting about Wilson Fisk was they decided to go very overt with the symbolism. Like, he looks like a giant brick wall.
Yes.
In every scene that he's in. And he actually more resembles the Blob from X-Men than he does actually Wilson Fisk. But it works for what they're going for. And I love the way the black, in fact, the left side panel 2, his silhouette is very similar to the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
But I love these little character panels, and notice, like, the mood with these as opposed to the previous character designs we saw, where most of these are pretty sinister. Like, even where he's smiling in the last one, it's kind of a smug, evil smile.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's just a way, I mean, it's just great capturing those facial features for this. Also, hats off to whoever drew this, because obviously whoever would maybe had the idea for this, they wanted him to be like a huge brick wall, and to be able to make this kind of face work for this kind of blob of a man. Because it's kind of a challenge, because it is a weird, I mean, he's the largest character in this movie, right?
Oh, yeah.
With the outside Green Goblin, but I'm like, the human, let's put it this way, human character, he is literally the largest, and his anatomy wouldn't make any sense anywhere else but here in this movie.
Right.
I also love how they did, I guess, watercolor maybe? I don't know if this is digital or what, but when he's really emoting in these little concept pieces, they added in some watercolor, which is a nice touch.
Yeah. Moving on, not a lot to say. This is the full.
It's just like, it's mostly soup.
right. It's the full Wilson Fisk, but it demonstrates what they were going for. Like, he takes up like the full, and obviously the page was bigger than the picture I took, but he takes up like quite a lot of real estate. Moving on, you get Spider-Man Noir, which was probably one of the harder. So I would say probably the three hardest characters that they would have had to put into these into the movie was probably Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Ham, and Penny Parker, because they're very, very different art styles that they have to make work within this universe.
Yeah. I think it do a really good job, though, on that. I wish I'm probably going to end up getting this book. I wish that I could see more of any initial designs that they had for this.
They don't do
Spider-Man.
They don't do as much for those characters.
It's a shame.
Next one is Penny Parker and SPIDR.
Spider.
I believe that's what it was. Same thing. Penny Parker, clearly anime, manga. Has to fit into this universe. Oh, and apparently I put Doc Ock twice.
Yeah, I just thought it was just a mistake, so it's not a big deal.
It was. But moving on, this is where I tried to organize everything into different phases. So we're seeing some of the concept art for different rooms, and this is Peter's Rest in Pete's Spider Cave, filled with references to a lot of the stuff they mentioned early on in the film.
And merchandise.
Yeah, well, you see Spidey-O's, a Spidey guitar, a Spidey snowboard, and the problem.
Key to the City.
Where's that?
Literally above Spider-Man Saves New York.
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
And then actually below that, you see him with a mask on and gloves talking to, I guess, what's supposed to be maybe
Barack Obama. Probably Barack Obama, yeah. Which could be a reference to the Barack Obama cover of Spider-Man from when he got elected.
Yeah, there's if you look at the center console, you can see on the far left photo that he has on that little desk, it's like the cover to the wedding issue for Spider-Man, because you can see Mary Jane wearing that some of the similar, I guess a similar wedding dress to what was on the comic cover.
Yeah. And that's probably Aunt May and Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
Right next to it. I do want to point out that some of the merchandise that you see on the table is real.
Yeah, I think that Spider-Man statue is like a legit, a sideshow collectibles thing.
I believe it is, and I'm pretty sure one of those is the one below it is a pop vinyl, or meant to be similar.
Well, there is one in front of the Spidey-O's. Literally, if you look down in the corner, it kind of blends in a little bit, but that's literally a pop vinyl.
But maybe my favorite two things are the Spidey energy drinks and the Spidey Nikes. That's the left side.
Yeah, I see them.
Next page, you get more of what we saw.
I'm not trying to skip over this one or the next one, but I'm going to combine the next two. You don't have to show it or anything, because the next one is also the suits, and I like this because it's this Batman feel with all these different suits in display, and each one was so cool about it. They're all individualized, and on the next slide we'll see that. Yeah, it's really very Batman-like in this for me when I was seeing this for the first time.
Yeah, well, the whole concept of the Spider Cave, and like I said, Rest in Pete is clearly a Batman-esque character in a lot of ways. But what I do find interesting, though, is, and you don't see this as much in the film, but when showing you the concept art for the Spider Cave, it's all designed to look like a giant web. Like it's not really a cave. There's this vast emptiness, but there's these cables and structures holding it together. But I do want to mention the costumes, because as I've mentioned before, I'm a big fan of the Marvel Spider-Man video game, and several of these costumes are directly from the game, and clearly, worked in conjunction. The top left second well, second and third are definitely originally from the game. The one below the white crest Spider-Man is also from the game, but most of these appear, not all of them. You don't get the my favorite ridiculous design is maybe the Spider-Man a la Doctor Strange on the far right.
Do you think the one above the Doctor Strange one, you think that's supposed to be a Scarlet Spider thing? Without the blue jumper, like the blue hoodie?
That's a good question, but honestly, if it was, they should have had the blue hoodie. I'm
that
very
been a great touch.
I'm very partial to the Scarlet Spider design. I always have been. I think it's fantastic.
I remember when they were like, "Oh, we're bringing Marvel a few years ago." It was like, "We're bringing Scarlet Spider back," and they showed the new costume, and people were complaining so much that they actually switched it.
They did, yeah. But yeah, I'm with you. I loved the reveal at the cave. But yeah, that Doctor Strange design does make me laugh every time.
Also, another thing to go in with that is I loved how Aunt May was in on it with the whole, and also I'm guessing Aunt May is supposed to be an engineer or something in this too, because they mentioned that she mentions that she built the web shooters for Miles.
That's true. That's a nice little touch.
So like an Alfred / engineer kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, it's just something you just. It might be like a nitpicky thing, just to be like, oh, that's kind of weird, but it kind of makes sense. And you just roll with it.
That's a good point. I never thought of that, but yeah, she is an Alfred character in this. Probably intentionally. Moving on, we get like a quick shot, and I thought this was important. When the collider screws things up, it kind of dog piles different elements of each universe. You know,
and this is clearly a composite in Photoshop. And what I mean by composite is they take a bunch of different reference photos and they chop them up and they kind of smash it all together, literally for this, to nail that look.
All right. The next one I felt important to include. This is a double page splash in the book. This is Alchemax. I just love this painting, and this is representation of the scene where Miles and Peter are escaping. But I love the design of this building here. I don't know if the final design was exactly the same in the movie. I don't think it was, but this is really cool.
Yeah, no, I think so. It just, I love how they have the reflection on there. It's just, it kind of blends in for a second, then you actually realize it's the building. It's just done pretty well. You also get that little edge of Spider-Man or Miles or whoever that is jumping off on the far right of that 2-page spread.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's Peter, but you never know. The next page goes to what you were talking about originally. And actually, I accidentally split the two images of this up. But when I saw this in the movie, my first thought was like it was an edited version of the original cover and original pages. But it's clearly not once you get like a second to focus. But the artist that they got to do it, Marcello Vinali, he did an excellent job of recreating the style of John Romita Sr.
I think it looks pretty spot on for the styling. Also, just a note that you only see this cover probably for a couple seconds in the movie. And if you had more time, because I was wondering, I was like, who put out this comic book and does it name drop Peter in this? Like, I'm guessing it doesn't. And literally reading it, it says, though the world may mook Billy Barker.
It's mock, but yeah, Billy Barker.
It looks like it says mook, M-O-O.
It does, but it's mock.
I have no clue what that is. I have no clue what that meant. Oh boy!
But yeah, they changed his name to Billy Barker in this.
Yeah,
which is funny. The next page is I had to include this because I love all the Easter eggs in this film. We talked not on record, but we talked about how there's even a reference to the crying game in the movie when Peter's crying in the shower. But and you'll love this panel just because of the toys. You've got action figures,
the lunchbox, and the 3 Toy Biz like action figures.
Mm-hmm. And also, as I mentioned earlier, a pop vinyl. And on the left middle, there's the costume that they took Spider-Man 2099 and updated his costume a few years ago, and that's the updated design. And I'm very partial to the original design, but I actually love that design as well.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was
cool. You want to hear something weird I'm noticing in this?
What's that?
And it's right above the group of comics on the right, and you just see ramen noodle, like instant ramen noodles. And if you didn't know what that was, it's not a speaker or anything, that little contraption. That's a rice cooker. So I'm guessing there's like an Asian influence or something around these rooms that people are using as a reference, because it's just so weird to have a random, like a rice cooker and a bunch of instant ramen type of stuff with chopsticks sticking out of it.
I think I accidentally forgot to include the character designs for Gank, but they went very heavy on the Asian.
It's supposed to be. Yeah, maybe it's supposed to be Gank.
Yeah, it's probably. Some of the character designs.
It's so weird that that's in there.
And it's funny. It is fair to point out that an Asian person drew these, but some of the Gank character designs went very stereotypical, like way overboard. But the next page goes back to I don't remember the artist's name, but again recreating the style of the original comics. And
the artist, by the way, was Marcelo Vignali.
Yeah, there you go.
I think that's how you say his last name. Apologies. I'm saying it wrong. And
specifically, they went with the old dot matrix art or coloring here.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I was mentioning, like way back when we were talking about the movie. I was talking about how they have that halftone effect, that dot matrix effect on some of the textures for the characters.
I guess one little nitpick here, though, is I think they meant to write crack, but they wrote croc.
That is kind of weird, right?
Yeah, which does make me laugh. But yeah, like the amount of detail that went into creating this, it looks. I mean, they could have gotten anybody to draw a comic book. It didn't have to be in the style of the early Spider-Man comics with John Romita. But they went to the extra step of asking artists like, "Hey, can you do this? Can you make this look the way it does in the comics?" Oh, is that the last panel?
Yeah, that's it, man.
Oh, is that all I sent to you? Okay, well, that's shocking.
I mean, that's all I had.
Yeah, no, I think I took a couple more, but I must have accidentally not sent it to you. But I think that's enough. I think this is a beautiful book. So much to appreciate, and this is just scratching the surface. Like I said, this is a 200-page book with a lot. They also, it's there's writers explaining things in there as well that we didn't have time to get through. But this was fun. I enjoy this. We both love this movie.
Yeah, it's definitely a favorite of mine. And also, I'll say my wife really enjoyed it too. And she's not a big comic book person. And what was nice, and here, usually if you watch a comic book movie, there's a lot of questions she'll ask during the movie. It's really a point of discussion. A point of discussion. I have to watch what I'm saying right now because she's right next door. But she didn't really, pretty much it had her captivated and filled in all the questions for her, I think. And she really liked this one, and it's not a usual thing where she enjoys some of these comic book movies. Well, there's so much extra going on.
as I said before in the previous video, the movie Rewind, where we discussed the film at length, this is a lesson in great filmmaking. Like, it's not a movie that's as simple as, oh, this is another superhero, people punch each other. It's an actual story that has actual character arcs and actually makes you care about the characters as human beings. When Miles is struggling to deal with, losing Peter and seeing his uncle and and his distance from his father, like, you feel that. And I think so. You don't have to like superheroes to love this film, and I love that this. And by the way, I love that this is a film that I can show to my niece and nephews. Like, I can actually sit down with them, like, hey, let's just watch this, and they don't have to. They can be little kids and still. I'm sure they would be into this to some degree or another. So, all right, well, I guess that's it, huh?
Yeah, I think so, man.
Hopefully this recorded. No, we don't have another snafu. Again, I don't know if I mentioned at the beginning of this, but we normally have us on camera, and there's internet issues that prevented that, so we just went ahead and filmed this the way we did. But it worked out fine because we're focusing on the art on this.
Yeah.
And Travis, tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me at www.artoftravishymel.com, Hymel. You can search me and find me on YouTube. Again, that's Travis Hymel, Hymel. I have some drawing, like some stream videos I have up there, some how-to videos, and also videos where I draw homages to Marvel trading cards and do it in my style. You can also follow me at Travis_Hymel, Hymel. That's for Instagram and Twitter. What about yourself, Adam? You got anything you got to plug?
No, I do want to mention, like, if you like the Art Convos videos, you should check out Travis's channel. If you've never seen a comic book artist break down a scene, you get your chance, and most of his videos are shorter. The only exception are the live streams, which I've done 2 live streams with you, where it's kind of similar to this. Like, I'm not on camera, but in the last one you were inking a Wolverine piece that ended up being more like a actual comic book panel than it did the trading card.
Yeah, and that wasn't my intention to start out with, I should say.
No, but it's a good lesson in, like, how much goes into drawing these panels. So I do highly recommend that. But go like, subscribe to Travis's channel, and of course like and subscribe to Lightning Culture. Travis is often on it. I do have other guests that come on. Travis is more like a co-host more often than not, but he's just not on every single thing I do.
Yeah. You also have Kyle and Kevin Smith occasionally.
It's going to be rotating people for different things.
Okay.
Including Movie Rewind. The next one probably, it may have you. It just depends on what I decide to do the next movie on.
Long Kiss Goodnight?
No, I'll never have you on Long Kiss Goodnight.
Oh, boy.
You don't get to ruin something beautiful, Travis.
It was already ruined to begin with.
Well, you ruined this, so. Alright, so thank you for watching, and have a great weekend.